This week, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I've spent 5 years creating content on my journey from being the vice president of IT into the vice president of HR, and then safety and transportation and kind of all these other functional domains. I have completely forgotten about my journey from IT manager to director, and more importantly, from director to vice president. And because it was 10 years ago, I kind of have lost sight of it. I had to find a way to shift my entire mode of operation and perspective and how I approach solving problems and communication to ascend into the senior levels of leadership. This is not something that comes natural. As I've started working with more executives, trying to help them step up to that next level, I've come to realize this has been a big miss on my part. So today, I'm going to spend some time really digging into why most directors struggle with stepping up to that vice president level role. And the biggest things that you have to remember are certifications don't matter. You don't need more certifications. You don't need to understand how to train AI models and get the data right and on and on and on. You need to learn how to operate as an executive. The jump to vice president was not about learning more technology. It was about thinking differently. So these are some of the things that actually changed for me. Your peers matter more than your team. Spicy, I know, especially coming from me, but hear me out on this one. At the director level, you can win by running a strong department. You can win by ensuring that the server uptime is above benchmark or industry standards. At the vice president level, that's not enough anymore. The executive team needs to see you as a peer, not just a person who can fix technology and keep the lights on. You have to start building trust with them. You have to build relationships with them. Not surface level, hey, let's grab a coffee. Real alignment and understanding what is important to them. Because if you can make them the hero, all of a sudden you elevate yourself to their level. And big things will start happening to you because you will start getting more exposure and have an even better understanding of what's going on in the business, which leads into thinking bigger. I used to think that because I understood the infrastructure that all of the applications ran on, that I understood the business. I used to think that because I had gone through numerous ERP implementations and made sure that all the workflows were running, that everything was working fine within the applications, that I understood the business. I was wrong. Understanding the infrastructure and the application side of things is not the same as understanding the business. You only start to develop this understanding when you become more intentional about sitting down with these leaders, building relationships with them, and truly understanding what they do. This also means that you do this with more than just the leaders. This involves visiting different locations, walking the shop floor, having conversations with the engineers out in the shop. Show me how to assemble this tool. Well, what is your challenge? Why do you think things are going wrong? Yeah, I know sales is a pain in the ass. Okay, well, what's going on? How can we at least try to make things a little bit better where they can more accurately forecast? All of these types of conversations will only occur if you get out of your office. Do not think that you can learn more about the business by hiding in the ivory tower. It will not happen. And I'm flashing back to years ago, whenever I was at my former employer, my role, part of the reason that I was so successful is that I spent so much time out in the field, visiting the locations. And whenever I would come back, sit down in the boardroom and have conversations where everybody was basically living and breathing and operating there at the corporate office, they would talk through, well, this is what's going on here. I'm looking at the data here in the spreadsheets. This is what's going on. My differentiator was my ability to say, hey, time out. I was actually just out there last week, and I know this is what you see in your spreadsheet. This is what's actually going on in the shop. This is the challenge that they are facing that is driving this number, not what you think it is. In order to do that, you have to spend some time out in the business. This is the only way. The more time you spend in the business, the easier it will be for you to start translating everything that you do into business language. I had to stop proving that I was the smartest person in the room by walking through every single technical detail of why the servers were always running, why we didn't have any issues with our applications. Nobody cared. I'm flashing back to the very first time I gave this big, beautiful slide deck with everything all mapped out, the data center, the WAN, like everything all connected. Nobody cares. What they actually care about is, why are we spending so much money on this? They don't care about all of the redundancies. They want to understand, how is this going to create leverage for me in the business? How is this going to improve revenue and reduce risk? You have to come to the conversation armed with the knowledge to understand all of these foundational things that you do with keeping the lights on and even implementing new systems, how that positively impacts the business. When you learn to communicate outcomes, not architecture, they start viewing you in a different light. In order to do that, this is the next one that is going to be tough for me to talk through with you, because I know it was extremely challenging for me. You have to let go. The reason it was so challenging for me is because my passion was the technology. I had placed my identity in being the smartest solutions architect in the room, understanding the technology better than anybody on my team. I loved it. It was part of my identity, but it was also holding me back. It was limiting my growth. I spent a number of years on the fence. Do I go a technical path? I was actually having conversations with Dell at one point about being a solutions architect with him. Or do I go down the path of leadership? And over about a 3 to 4 year span of time, I kept finding myself in leadership positions. I grappled with it. I struggled with it because I don't like corporate politics. I don't like the burden of leadership. These were all the stories that I was telling myself. But I eventually had to let go. Yes, that means delegating to the people on your team. Yes, that means they are going to screw things up from time to time, which is why you have to start coaching them and developing them and giving them opportunities to grow. You build them and then let them build the technology environment. And all of this things that I've been talking through just now frees you up to start focusing on communicating more effectively with the business leaders. But you have to make time for that to happen. This next one's going to fall into the extreme ownership bucket. Deliver on everything. If you say something is going to happen at a certain date and time, make it happen. It doesn't matter the cost. It doesn't matter the time that you have to put into making it happen. You will work nights. You will work weekends. You will work holidays and vacations. It's not fun. But if you make a commitment, honor that commitment. Now, this actually gets interesting because you have the ability to push due dates and deadlines. But you have to start at the very beginning of the project or initiative. If the business leader comes and says, I want it done by this date, that is your time to push back. Well, we have this in place, and we're this far along on these projects. Which of these do you want to put on hold to make this thing happen? That's the conversation that you need to start having. All of these things elevate you to being a peer as opposed to the IT guy that they just dump stuff on all the time. You have to be consistent. You have to be reliable under pressure. In the end, I had to recognize that the promotion was never about the title. It was about the identity. It was about the person that I had to become to step in to the executive ranks. I had to stop seeing myself as a technologist and start operating as a technology executive. And that meant I had to start owning enterprise level outcomes and thinking long term. I had to start thinking about, how do I protect the business? How do I protect the people in the business that, I really don't like? Oh man, you are a pain in my ass. I do not like you, but we're a team. We're going to make this happen together. Everybody sees how you respond. And I assure you, everybody knows who that pain in your ass is. And if they see you lead through that and still deliver results, they're going to take notice. You're going to get a head nod. Okay. You have to stop stressing about the title. It will come when you are truly ready. Before I wrap this up, there's actually one more thing on the list. I didn't have it in my talking points that I wanted to cover today. It just hit me. I spent so many years with my head down, banging away on the keyboard with my office light off and the door closed. Many of you know that by now. I had to look up and out. I had to start learning how to effectively communicate. And the mental shift that I ultimately had to recognize is that even though I talk all day, every day, even though I could clearly articulate all the ins and outs and the interconnects and interdependencies and redundancies in the data, again, nobody cares about it. You have to communicate to them in their own way. I had to get out and start networking with other executives. I had to start attending conferences and events, and it gave me so much anxiety to do that. But what I learned, every time I went to another conference, I would look at other vice presidents and CIOs and see them on stage and see them interact with other people and think, how does Rob do that? How does Jacob do that? How are they so comfortable having these conversations? You have to start learning these skills. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to go to networking events. And this was so tough for me because I thought, I'm doing my work. I've got my head down. I should get promoted. That's not how it works. That's not how the game works. And I know the game has this whole negative connotation around it, but the reality is, if you want to positively impact your own life and the lives of everybody on your team so that you can positively impact the business, you have to learn to navigate the game. You have to learn to navigate the political waters that exist. Now, do not allow yourself to get sucked into it and become one of those manipulative leaders that just uses people. That's not what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to learn how to navigate these waters so that we can optimize for outcomes to help our team. That's ultimately what it comes down to. In order to do that, you have to swim out into big waters from time to time. You've got to learn these skills. Stop thinking you can just put your head down and get the latest IT certification, because it's not going to work.